Hello, loony listeners out there. This is episode 1 of Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. I'm one of your personalities, Ray.
I'm your other host, Connor, and we're back here this week to cover issue 1 of Jeff Lemire's, Greg Smallwood's, and Jordie Bellaire's most recent run on Moon Knight, and dive back into the past with Marvel Preview 21 by Doug Munch, Bill Sienkiewicz, and Tom Palmer. So grab out your issues, sit back, relax, and get your concho on.
If you were given the choice of having another personality, Connor, another additional personality to what you have now, and it could only be either Mark Spector, a mercenary, Stephen Grant, a millionaire or billionaire, and Jake Lockley, the cab driver. We're not going to include Moon Knight because,
Really?
I think we all want to be him. But if you had one of those three to choose from, what would your other personality be?
I'd like to go Jake Lockley. I think, is he a pretty good driver? Because I'm a pretty rubbish driver in real life. So I think I'd take that skill the most. But, he knows everyone on the street. He goes to a nice diner, gets around.
Yeah. He's quite social, isn't he? Yeah, he's got Gina's Diner. He knows Crawley. Yeah, I think you're right on the money. I would have picked Jake as well. I would have thought Mark Spector's a bit too violent for my tendencies. And Stephen Grant, I think, billionaire, but with wealth, comes a lot of responsibility. I thought, nah.
He's also a bit of a loner. He's a
bit of a loner, and you'd have a bit of an entourage, I think, as well. You have hanger-oners, so I reckon Jake Lockley would be the pick. So anyway, loonies, we are back. Our official episode 1. Now, before we kind of kick off into some news, I just wanted to go back, take a couple of steps back and include a couple of editorial notes from episode 0. We had a good time doing that, doing the history and the overview.
It was quite an episode. We weren't quite expecting the hour and a half mark.
No, it was quite lengthy. It was cool, though. It was a lot of fun. But I did find a couple of errors on my behalf. I'm sorry. So the first one was for Werewolf by Night number 32. I did say that Moon Knight was employed by the Secret Empire. Now, that is categorically wrong. I picked that up somewhere from some article. It really is the Committee, and the Committee are a different entity to the Secret Empire. So sorry, apologies there, Connor. I dropped the ball on that one. The other one was Anton Mogart. I believe I referred to him a few times as Midnight, when he's actually Midnight Man, and there's a distinction there between him and his son Jeff Wild, who is Midnight. So, just wanted to make the distinction there. Anton Mogart is Midnight Man, and Jeff Wild was Midnight. Finally, I thought we'd nip it in the bud and go... what I did, I went to YouTube and I tried to get some confirmation on the pronunciation. So Connor, Charlie, what was his name?
Houston?
Yeah, so in YouTube they call it, from the US, I don't know, new US way of pronouncing things, they have pronounced it Houston, so it's actually Charlie
Houston.
Yeah, how about for Doug? What did you reckon for Doug?
Oh, I was thinking Monek, but I bet it's something fancier.
It's not as fancy as I thought, actually. I called him Munch. I know there's Monch and Mensch. Apparently it's pronounced Monch.
So,
M and then dash O-H and then E-N-C-H. So Monch is actually his pronunciation. And finally, the big one, Bill, how would you pronounce that again, Connor?
Did you say Sienkiewicz?
Yeah, I said Sienkiewicz. I think that was wrong again. I think the Polish way is Sienkiewicz, so it's a lot more just straightforward. There's no emphasis. Sienkiewicz. So there you go. A bit of editorial notes there.
I'm sure I stuffed up a lot as well. Don't worry, listeners. I look through, but I just cry at all my mistakes. So, if you want to throw some shade at me for getting it wrong, just email at us.
Exactly. Yeah, we're contactable on many a platform. Let's dive into the news, Connor. What have you got?
All right, look, so just a few sad tears at the fact we have no announcements still, and I don't really have anything. I know one thing I have to fill up on is, well, catch up on, is his appearances in Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe again. Apparently he's having not only an appearance, but a pretty well-written appearance from what I hear.
Yeah, I'm not following that. Are you following the issues there?
No, I didn't think it'd have any appeal, but it's got a Punisher, it's got a Kate Bishop, it's got Mr. Knight running around doing detective work in it, so I think I might catch up on that and report back next week.
It's sounding more and more intriguing, actually. Similar to you, I had no inclination to read it. Funny story, though. The thing that kind of got me more into it actually was I was at the pet store just the other day.
Good start.
Picking up some fish, as you do. Connor knows that I've been trying to start an aquarium with my partner, and anyway, we're picking up some fish, and I was wearing a Deadpool cap. And as we were paying for the fish, the young girl at the counter, she goes, "Oh, is that a Deadpool cap that you got over there?" I felt very chuffed, going, "Yep, of course." Represent another comic book fan, and she could not stop about how good Deadpool versus the rest of the Marvel Universe, or Kills the Marvel Universe again, is.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, and she swears by it. So I think we're going to have to both pick it up, Connor.
Oh, yeah, for sure, next week. We're on it.
Yeah, definitely. Look, it's been pretty lean as well, apart from exactly what you said. The only couple of threads I picked and I posted up on our Facebook group page was some past alumni of Moon Knight. So Greg Smallwood, who's one of the brilliant artists who we'll be talking about tonight in Lemire's issue 1. He has got a new gig doing a bit of a Guardians of the Galaxy issue. And also Jeff Lemire, again, who will feature tonight. He and another artist, Miko Suyin, are doing Bloodshot Salvation. So,
very excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess these guys have projects everywhere, but I just wanted to highlight that those two are still kicking around, quite active.
Greg Smallwood appeared on Guardians of the Galaxy, all new Guardians of the Galaxy this week as well.
Ah, right, yes.
Which is apparently also very good, and he drew Drax playing the sax in a cape, so awesome. Definitely worth the buy.
I've got that on my pile somewhere, so I've got to dig that out once we finish this podcast. But that sounds awesome. Yeah. So other than that, news-wise, that's pretty much it. We're still, as Connor said, hanging out for Legacy. We'll let you know as soon as something comes in. We've both got our alerts switched on our computers, so as it comes through, it'll probably be posted on the Facebook page or Twitter. But we'll get it out there to you as soon as we can. All right, Connor.
Oh,
sorry.
I was just gonna launch into a bit of a topic. Since all this got announced before we started, we have for the Marvel Legacy announcement for Moon Knight. Let me just find the exact thing. Moon Knight will be reverting to issue 188 with the new arc called Crazy Runs in the Family, and we have no idea of writer, whether that story arc means Randall or some whole new family member, or even if they are related. But Ray, with this story arc, what do you kind of want out of it? What do you want on our new creative team? What do you want coming out of this?
Oh, yeah, good question, actually. It certainly does. The title does tease a lot, and it could mean many a thing, as you say. Definitely Randall Spector's one of them. It could even also mean his father as well, the rabbi. I'd like to, I think from past the previous episode, I'd like to see a bit more of a supernatural spin brought back, only just as a point of difference. And if we're keeping with the reset button every volume, it'll be great to just get that kind of werewolf thing happening, or even maybe a Blade, dare I say. Family. I'm hard pressed to think of what that would mean. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I instantly jumped to Randall, but I mean, I'm also kind of thinking a whole new family member, or even maybe like Midnight. would be classed as family.
Yeah, true.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I think there was speculation as well. We were thinking, could there be like another family member, i.e., maybe a sister or a niece that might take the mantle of Moon Knight? I mean, that could possibly be it. We could find a totally new family member, and the opportunity that the Moon Knight legacy is kind of extended. I know the whole thing is bringing it back to Moon Knight, but actually Moon Knight's one of the characters that actually haven't been touched by any of these kind of legacy characters. Look at Hawkeye, look at Captain America, look at Iron Man, Hulk. They've all got legacy characters. So maybe it's time that Moon Knight gets introduced to one.
Yeah, well, I'm really not sure, because half of this is Marvel Legacy's kind of tagline is, it's half of the new stuff and half reverting to the classics. So we've really got nothing to go on what we're looking at.
Yeah,
where we're going, who's staying on.
How about artists and writers? Who would you like to see?
Well, Rebecca, one of our good friends and admin on the group and constantly popping up and around. We were talking
Iron
about...
Fist expert.
Yes. Check out, she's on a podcast called Immortal Iron Fist, Sons of the Dragon. And we were talking about the new Black Bolt series coming out by Saladin Ahmed, is I think how you say his name.
Yeah.
And he put out, she was showing me a tweet he put out in June saying, he's put in a sort of, what are they called? When you propose... proposal. There we go.
Proposal.
About a new series he wanted to write at Marvel, and since we could be looking at Moon Knight, since he's not in the October solicitations, November or beyond, that'd be enough time to put out an issue. So I'd love to see Saladin Ahmed on Moon Knight, because his current Black Bolt run is probably my favourite thing at Marvel at the moment, and he very much understands comic, despite this being his first comic book, and he's got this really poetic and nuanced style for, the really sort of tortured character of Black Bolt. And when I think of Moon Knight and that classic, I've already forgotten how to say Munch.
Who was it? Sienkiewicz?
No. Doug...
Munch?
Doug Munch's run, and how his sort of narration was very poetic in style, and seeing that in Black Bolt, I think it'd be totally crazy to have him on that book and just what he could bring to that.
Yeah, I'd say, Jeebus, sign him up. He's great. I'm reading Black Bolt as well, and I think it's very good. Christian Ward, I think, is he the artist?
Yeah.
He's pretty awesome as well with the colorist. Is it Geordie Belair? Is it her again?
No, it's his own coloring, actually.
He's on. Okay, well, he's hitting it out of the park with his coloring. Actually, it would be a very interesting take on Moon Knight. I think he's got that level of weirdness that you'd want with Moon Knight. So they would probably be a very good team. I'll be with you, Connor. There, I reckon that's pretty good. What
about you, my friend? Who are you seeing on this run?
Oh, yeah. You can always get me to say David Finch, to bring him back. He's just great. Look, let me think. Who's the current artists? Maybe. Oh, look, just with a bit of a Punisher connection, maybe Becky Cloonan on
amazing
writing. I haven't seen her art, but she's apparently an artist as well.
Yeah, incredible artist.
Is she? Okay.
She put out a trade back last week called By Chance and Providence. She's done a lot of stuff over at Dark Horse.
Okay.
Yeah,
no. I'll be keen to. I mean, I haven't seen any of her art, but her writing is quite good. Just give her a go on art. I'd be happy to see someone totally new or who you wouldn't expect to be on Moon Knight to give it a go.
Yeah.
Totally open for all that. Except for maybe comedic writers, I think. I just have to say. I don't think that would really fit into his world. Yeah. Any other points?
I mean, not really. It's all speculation game, but I think a point you brought back earlier about talking about his father and being the rabbi, I think I would love to sort of see more of a reference to... I mean, obviously not make it like such a big thing. It's so forced, but seeing that sort of Jewish ancestry back in Moon Knight, I always feel like that's a cool part of the character. You know, being a Jewish hero that's not really ever spoken about much in runs.
Yeah, it was touched upon with the Lemire and Smallwood run, which we'll get into in the later issues. But you're right, it hasn't really been touched upon. It's something that they can really kind of explore, I guess, in the later issues to come. Right. Well, how about we get cracking into it, Connor?
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have more news next week. We wait every day for a new drop of information, whether it be Marvel, Netflix, or the new run. But solicitations usually would probably drop about 2 weeks from today. So hopefully, if not next week, the week after, we finally have some concrete information for.
Oh gosh, yeah. We'll be quite spoilt. I mean, we've still got the Defenders on TV coming up. So we'll be quite engaged and busy with stuff anyway, but it'll be a great surprise to finally hear that news come out about Moon Knight Legacy.
Yeah, well, we await every day, but I do believe it's time for some Lemire, Smallwood, and Belair.
Definitely, yes. So, loony listeners, if you're out there, if you want to even crack open your copy out and follow through with us, we're just going to go through this issue. So I've got it open up in front of me. As Connor said, number 1, Moon Knight, Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood, Jordie Bellaire on colours. Do you want to read out the little blurb at the top, Connor?
Alright, here we go. Mercenary Mark Spector died in Egypt under a statue of the moon god Khonshu. In the shadow of the ancient deity, Mark returned to life and took on Khonshu's aspect to fight crime for his own redemption. He went completely insane and disappeared for a time, but returned to protect those who travel by night. At least he thinks that's what happened. Welcome to New Egypt, part 1 of 5.
Awesome stuff. And what I find immediately, going back just to the cover, we have the cover of, and immediately it's quite a strong and evocative cover. It's got basically a guy in a straitjacket, covering his face just haphazardly with a moon crescent on his forehead in a padded cell. The use of white we'll see later on is so good. It's something that we tend to not really notice, but it comes to the fore in Moon Knight in particular.
Yeah, and I think you can always just see off this cover what to expect from Smallwood and Bellaire. This very, very realistic but stylized, and this strong use of the white. Yeah,
it's a great way to start things. So, if we go to page 1, so we open up with a very different style of artwork from Greg Smallwood, and it begins with Mark kind of, it seems, in some sort of astral plane. We're not too sure, but he's it looks like where he was actually at Ground Zero, where he became Moon Knight. He kind of walks through, and I'm just onto the second page here, Connor. And immediately, I just wanted to say that Smallwood, I've heard as well, he does say that he does spend a lot of time on the backgrounds and the foreground, so not just the central figures, and you can really see it here. He's got what looks like a train station that Mark enters in. So he's outside, it seems like a Khonshu temple. He walks through and he's immediately what looks to be like a metro or a subway. And the artwork is kind of scratchy.
I love this, it's sort of... It sets you up for very much what will become the tone of this first issue. It's really rough and just almost stylized, but almost comes across, especially when you see the later pages in this, unsure of itself. There's something just very unclear and not so much undefined, but almost not like crystal clear about what you're seeing on screen.
Totally. It's something that's slightly off-putting. It's great artwork, really nice to look at, but it's not clean, it's not crisp, it's not clear. It's kind of a bit, a bit spotty and sketchy everywhere.
There's I specifically love here, actually, an unsung hero, letterer VC's Corey Petit.
Okay, yeah.
There's a specific, if you're following along with this, just the way we actually see text guide us to where to go. You know, we see the words, "I am here," come just a little further here.
Yeah.
as a reference, but how it's positioned on the page from travelling down the first panel to being in the doorway of the second panel, there's just this very clear line of direction to follow. It's genius.
It really does. It just draws your eye. It's a way to manipulate the reader, really, and it's a lot in the layouts here as well. The panels themselves have there's a lot of white behind the panels, so these panels stick out, but they kind of shrink down. They get smaller and smaller until you're at the bottom where Mark's kind of clutching his stomach. He's going through this place that he's got no idea what's happening, and he comes through. And then you have basically total stark white, still in the sketchy pattern, and you've got the introduction to Khonshu.
Very prominent shot too between the legs of just this calculating man with his hands over his legs.
Yeah, definitely. It frames him really well, I think. Considering that there are no panels in this page at all, it's just basically a white space. So Mark's legs are used as a frame, and you definitely see, well, there's Khonshu sitting back, quite reclined and relaxed. So he's got some sort of position of power, and Mark's kneeling in front of him. And he says basically, you are nothing, not anymore. So he's basically putting Mark in his place, I think.
Yeah, sort of not only a sort of you're nothing without me, but you've lost every aspect of, not that sort of aspect, but every part of Moon Knight he's sort of lost now. He must relearn and regain that title.
Yeah, and it says it in that last bubble, but before you can become something new, you must remember who you have already been. So Mark is searching for something, and Khonshu's kind of guiding him, and then you get this beautiful splash page. The first, it didn't last long before we got one. Yeah, and it's reminiscent of Connor. We were talking to a fellow loony in the loony bin, our chat room. His name was Paul, and he showed us a Bill Sienkiewicz montage of Mark Spector and all the different personalities he had, and this kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah, very much so. It's sort of it's a very prominent, like, remembering who you are, drawing us back to Jake Lockley, Stephen Grant, and Mr. Knight, the previous one, which is I think a direct panel from the very famous issue 5 of the Ellis part of the run.
Ah, nice pickup. Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's and then at the bottom you have Mark, so you have this kind of, it looks like a dream cloud basically, all coming from his head, and then you have the clean, crisp look of Mark at the bottom, screaming. So he is obviously kind of remembering something after his illusion, and then we go to the next page, and we get a different art style altogether. And
this is what will become very much then the main art style of the book, as much as a main art style that you'll see this run will have. And it's just, there's already this stark use of white. It's almost like chalk, the way that Smallwood draws it, and then Belair is able to give it such depth, almost as you're looking at a chalk drawing on the sidewalk in front of you. It's so popping and catching. Yeah,
definitely. And you can see the kind of the first bit of this issue was ended. So we were in that scratchy other world, and where Mark's trying to figure out what's going on, and we know we know for certain that we are now kind of in a reality, apostrophes, so the panel again, I think, is the layout's quite weird. You get Smallwood using kind of like a magnification, so he's got the little circle around Mark's head, and then a close-up, which he uses later on in the issue as well. I think it's a nice little tool. And then you get an introduction of, we know, okay, he's in some sort of hospital or some sort of ward, because we get two guys, what's his name, Bill and Bobby, I think, and they look pretty colourful. Now, no spoilers, because, this is an old series, did you pick these guys up anywhere else, Connor, later on, or?
No, I never picked up on them, but I think, they're very much kind of that era of blaxploitation look of I think it's very much a callback to the era of Moon Knights from the 80s, the late 70s, sort of how.
Okay. Yeah, no, for sure, because we got dodgy moustaches, we got a little comb in the afro there, and the other guy, I think that's Billy. He's got a nice little mullet. So anyway, yeah. So they basically they hear Mark scream and they come in going, basically, what's wrong? Keep quiet. You're disturbing the neighbours. And Mark talks back. In which case, Bobby just gives him a slap or a punch in the face.
Direct whap.
A direct whap. Yes. So the first sound word that we get. So yeah, they basically continue beating up on him. And they're almost a bit of a comedic duo. I think even with the alliteration, Billy and Bobby, they call each other. They always address each other. And they basically make hell for Mark. They sedate him, and you can see at the bottom panel as Bobby takes out the needle, again a little circle and a magnified circle to show exactly what it is that he was doing, which he's preparing. Sorry?
No, I'll just let you finish.
Oh no, which was he's preparing a syringe.
Yeah, and we sort of, well, what I was getting here is we see very much the draw and the setup of this issue. Mark Spector, the Moon Knight, is now a crazy man in asylum. Has he always been a crazy man?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it was still kind of... Yeah, I mean, after what was a previous run, the Ellis and the Mr. Knight stuff, so we had a little break, and all of a sudden he's here, right? So we don't... I think there's still questions as to what's happening. Like, we don't get too much on the Moon Knight yet, which we'll get later with Emmett, the Doctor. But anyway, they prick him with a needle. Again, great colours there. Look, I love his mouth, bloodied mouth.
Yeah.
You can see his teeth is bloodied as well. Great perspective from Smallwood. And then, the change of perspective. So as you can see, the angle goes up towards Billy and Bobby now as Mark kind of drifts away, and you have the panels sinking into oblivion.
This is just the incredible panel work you can expect.
It is.
And I think this is such an important part of the story, just the way all these visual clues you see of how much of a different world or almost maybe reality for Mark it is. You know, we see immediately the hero is in his regular identity, beaten. He's always framed to be below these two attackers. The Khonshu pleasers are rejected by a Khonshu. Who the hell is a Khonshu?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just something I picked up here, Connor, his left eyebrow, I'm glad to see he still has a scar. So Mark Spector has, in the previous volumes, well, it's kind of on and off, but he's generally been considered to have a little scar between his eyebrow. So it's good that Smallwood kind of retains that, a little identity for Mark. So he disappears into blackness, and then the next page is, again, great. Like, when I first read this is the first time I saw panels kind of organised like this, Connor, where it's literally an exclamation mark.
Yeah.
And you see Mark slowly waking up, and he sees his tormentors, Billy and Bob, above him, and you see him in this... I really love the backgrounds as well. Everything is hard and cold. He's got some tiles, some cracked walls, and he's in this just room on a hard steel table. And they obviously put something in his mouth, and they zap him. A bit of shock therapy.
And it's I just like what you said before about that cold room, the cracked. It's such immediately visual storytelling, that speech bubble that this isn't a nice place.
Yeah, it's really great. Whereas you get a lot of artists who, for different reasons, they lay emphasis on different things in the layouts, and most often than not, it's the central figure, right? They pour all their detail into the face, or whatever. With Greg Smallwood, he takes a lot of time with the backgrounds, and I think it really pays off because we're really set with an atmosphere here. We've got the wardens, we've got shock therapy, and the fact that he's in this sort of room really tells the story. So he gets zapped, basically. There's a bit of he gets about a third of the page, the next page with a big zzz.
Yeah.
So that kind of really amplifies, I guess, the magnitude of what's happened to him.
Yeah, it's very clear from like the small panels building up to an exclamation mark and the sudden page, and just 1/3, just this pain of Spectre.
Yeah, it's literally a jolt to the reader as well. Like, we're kind of like, oh, you turn the page, and it's like, oh, okay, he's not enjoying himself.
That's always been a thing I admired with Jeff Lemire. Actually, I read his Bloodshot Reborn recently, which starts off with two arcs. It's very psychological thriller, and the way he's actually able to almost scare or jump the reader by having these very quiet pages before, like in Bloodshot, it was like a very quiet page investigating, and the next was a full page spread with someone coming out of the woodworks to attack.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a really nice tool, and I think he's picked a good artist here with Greg Smallwood doing the. Look, I wonder how much is Lemire's instructions for the layouts, and as much as Smallwood's input as to how he'd like to lay out as well. It'd be very interesting to know.
Yeah. Well, actually, going back to Bloodshot, there was a very clear little write-up I remember on the third arc of that book, The Analog Man, with Lewis LaRosa.
Oh, yes.
The Analog Man.
Awesome artist.
La Rosa. That's it.
Yeah.
He was talking about, when Lemire is working with the artist, the way Lemire writes is very step by step. He wants every panel of the page, every action to be step by step. That's how he thinks creatively. And no matter how good or bad the artist is working with, what makes the artist he's working with gel so well is how they understand how to go step by step. He was talking about how La Rosa did that. Someone please pull me up if I'm saying that wrong. I'm saying that with my own notes. And we're seeing, and I think we're seeing this again with Smallwood, just how much they gelled with understanding. Maybe Lemire left smaller notes for the panels and just left the writing, that Smallwood was able to pick up that piece by piece, piecing step by step, and just creating this incredible comic. Yeah.
I mean, there's also the other direction, as you say, might be from Lemire, but the concentration on Mark's eyes, which comes time and time again. On this page, you see him kind of blacking out, and there's almost a cyclical thing, because towards the end you see his eyes in that last issue, kind of where it's very clear. So we start off with him being very hazy. In the final issue, down the track, issue 14, he's got a purpose and he knows where he's going, and there's a shot of two of his eyes, and it's quite determined and quite focused. So I'm sure that's probably Lemire.
And as we jump to the next page, you're almost getting this very clear repetition of the fading to black and cutting dramatically to the next bit.
Yes.
It's almost as a movie, you could picture this as like draining and then the sudden shock with the cut.
Yeah, very movie-like. And so here again talking with the eyes, you see his eyes obviously a bit sedated, or he's been beaten and he's a bit dazed. And I just wanted to talk about this second third of the page. Again, what I was reiterating before about just the attention to detail for the background and for the interiors for this mental hospital. Because if you think of like the TV show like Legion, or even the old classics like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, there's always like a retro, maybe even 70s tinge to the interiors to mental institutions. I don't know why it is, but it seems to be the trope. Over here, though, what we got is a continuation of what seems to be an underground or a railway of some sorts. Like no windows.
Right.
Yeah, no windows, high ceilings. And then you've got the steel columns. So I kind of linked that with what we saw earlier in the first couple of pages, where he steps through the Khonshu temple and he goes into what looks like a train station. So I just thought that was interesting to note. Yeah,
and we see that very much that sort of unease. And just everything, TV's locked up behind a steel cage.
Yeah.
Every crack is so significant.
Yeah, and those secondary doorways or archways have been bricked up as well. So there's only one particular door right in the centre. Really, really nice. And you can see to the left, we're starting to see other characters that we may recognise. Just need to get some fresh coffee on, fire up the grill, and we are all set to open. So who do you reckon that is, Connor?
I think that's very much Gina from our favourite Gina's Diner.
Very much Gina's Diner. And so, as readers, we're wondering, what is she doing here? Hang on, isn't Mark the only one that's crazy? So a lot of questions are starting to be asked. And there's still a level of what the hell is going on, basically, which actually lasts for a few issues, I think. But the next page, you get a nice contrast between Gina sitting in the chair, looking a bit out of it, with this other reality in where she does have a diner and she's serving Jake Lockley.
And as obviously we're seeing a flashback to what Mark is thinking, it returns to that very sketchy, unsure look of the page.
Yeah, it's actually triggering something in his head just by seeing her. So in some distant memory, and then at the bottom of the page, he kind of hears something on the TV, and this is what kind of really steers you away even further as a reader. We hear on the TV, on the news, that there's this Moon Knight character out and about. He's quite successful, and he's out on the streets, patrolling the streets and taking on criminals. And again, we're thinking, hang on, isn't Mark Spector Moon Knight? There's a few questions happening.
Yeah, and I can't even add much more to that. Set it up.
We see a little stained glass Scarlet there as well, which is a nice little callback to one of his rogues galleries on the far right there. And at the bottom, we see another character which we should be familiar with, which is
our good friend Crawley.
Good friend Crawley. He's one of my faves. I love his jacket, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was just saying, as we move to the next page, I think that very colourful patchwork is just again set up of this incredible visual style. Everything is seen so far has been so very cold and totalitarian, just being pushed down, and here's someone telling him to think differently and act differently, and we see that just like visually told through that colourful vest. Yeah,
and I reckon it kind of sums up Crawley in the sense that it's just that the fact that he's kind of disregarded, like he's seen as kind of harmless, and he's just a bit crazy and loopy himself, so he can get away with not wearing regulation white slacks. He is wearing it, but he's wearing this technically coloured jacket over him. So it's kind of like he's almost like a bit of a fool, and they give him a bit of a longer leash because he's not going to cause any major problem.
Yeah.
But he introduces he introduces himself to Mark, and basically again we get a little snippet of Mark remembering what may be a past life or real life, and Crawley's the one that seems to know more than anyone else, and I like that fact because, as mentioned, he's a bit of a fool, and sometimes fools do know a bit more than they should. In classic literature, you look at it a lot, and he shows Mark and says, "Mark, you should be basically the Fist of Khonshu," and we get the nice little circles again showing what Mark should be doing with his hand.
Very important setup there, the Fist of Khonshu.
Exactly. And then we get Billy and Bobby coming in to ruin the party. So they've seen obviously a bit of conspiring or just a bit of conversation between Mark and Crawley, and I think they're just basically bullies, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm not sure why these two are allowed to run around in this railway asylum.
Yeah, I don't think they pick up on what Crawley's trying to elucidate to Mark. I think they just want to pick on Mark, basically.
Not quite the new guy to understand.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just get the favourite punching bag to understand. So they lead him away, and he catches a glimpse of a blonde-haired woman sitting, again looking dazed.
As we cut to another yet sketchy vision of the past.
And that could only be Marlene, really. And he says, he picks it up. There you go, Marlene, he says. But they push him on.
And I think we see that sort of... I love the use of white here, as we almost see these panels move across from one side of the page to another in this very flowing way, as the white spaces cover both sides.
I think so, definitely as well. And if you look at the position of Mark, where he's at the top, and he's kind of led from, you could say, from central to the right.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of, we're led to kind of follow that movement as well. Although Marlene's in the foreground at the bottom panel, so there's a nice little subtle movement, I think.
I love sort of this duality here, especially. You have a very sort of sad and dazed Marlene that brings a big revelation to Spectre, and the other half of the panel it's got Loverboy being pushed.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's a good contrast actually. And then so Mark gets pushed into the office of Dr. Emmett.
Very
important. And again, look at her office, Connor. Isn't that a great office you want to be in?
Yeah. Why is she in this railway asylum?
Yeah, she's only got like a timber desk, a timber visitor chair, and everything else is concrete and brick. It's pretty depressing, but she's there to tell Mark, basically, come on Mark, you pull yourself together. You seem to be causing a lot of trouble. Mark is again questioning what is happening, because he's remembering Crawley and a little bit of Gina and a little bit of Marlene. So Dr. Emmett has to kind of reiterate that everything is an elaborate delusion. How he had been creating this fantasy in his head for a long time, and she pulls out some evidence, which then shows that he's been in the institution since he was 12 years old. And we basically have Mark's scrapbook of how he loves, I guess he was a bit of a Moon Knight fan just like us.
Yeah, I mean, what a page. This is the page where it all sort of comes together and we see that, the setup of this issue, that this may actually be reality.
Yeah, exactly. A little note as well, those sketches, I think apparently were Jeff Lemire's, so he actually drew those sketches. Yeah, so he... Sorry?
I was just going to say, in the picture of Moon Knight down the bottom is a very famous pose of Moon Knight, first volume.
Yes, yeah, true. Yeah, I think, so I think Lemire technically has drawn some Moon Knight. Even the little picture above it, kind of, I think, with Jake Lockley, you can just see in Moon Knight's face there. I think it might have been modelled after Sienkiewicz' artwork as well.
Incredible. What a man.
Yeah,
Lemire.
What a man. So she's basically buried the hatchet in Mark's dreams. You can see there she stands up. He's kind of head in hand. But I like this little clever thing here. Did you pick this up as well, Connor? I don't think I picked this up first with the pen.
Oh, no, that's really quite clever that we'll see come across.
Yeah, so he kind of, you see, while she's, harping on her monologue, he's kind of looking at the pen, telling, basically, help me help you, kind of speech. And we see her back turned with the pen, and when she turns around, the pen's gone. So Mark's not totally submissive.
And just a few more points on this page. That image actually is a reversed of the Lemire one I was talking about at the bottom of the previous page. Is a reversed version of cover 23 of the original run, volume 1.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And also, this is the thing I was talking about with the whole step-by-step. We'll go back to the next page. In this one, you see just how every step, every clear movement of this page is designed to work with the audience. The very specific movement of putting the hand on the desk, the quick then cut to the face, flipping of the page, the focus on Spectre. It just clicks as you move. This, no matter the text, no matter how big the issue, it's such almost an easy read just because you can follow it so cinematically.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's very well thought out. It's not just like, this is a screenshot of, or what we want to do. The way that the layouts kind of work together is an art in itself, and it's something that you don't see in film because it's a kinetic image. But in comics, I think it's great because you can really appreciate this other level of art, which is just laying things out properly.
Actually, an important fact we haven't mentioned yet is that Mark Spector has probably never looked more attractive than in this book. And there's a very specific reason that we found out towards the end of this run, that Mark Spector is actually drawn by Greg Smallwood doing poses of himself to what Mark would be doing. So the very obvious facial expression here in the middle panel of the page of, what is it, roughly page was 20, 21?
20, yeah.
Would probably have been him looking in the mirror and doing it himself.
Yeah, Yeah, which is not uncommon for a lot of artists as well. But I found that a fantastic fact. Again, kind of just learning about comics in general. You, me, and Rebecca kind of talked about it. It was really such a funny, I don't know, just a funny thing for them to do, but it makes sense because you've got a total reference that you can actually draw from. And you have artists like Greg Land, who notoriously uses other images of people's faces and such and poses in his artworks. You have artists themselves using themselves as models, which is really good. Even, look, who knows? Even like this Dr. Emmett and Marlene, they might be all modelled after someone as well.
Yeah. Is Emmett's character prior? I feel like she's new, but I can't be sure.
Yeah, I think she's new. I haven't come across her before, actually, and I think it's a new character introduced by Lemire. Again, editorial notes the following episode if I'm totally wrong. but I believe she is new, yeah.
Yeah, just check the Marvel Wiki. Dr. Emmett, first appearance.
Ah, lovely. Oh, it's good to be right every now and again, Connor.
Small win for the podcast.
Yeah, small win. So we move across. Obviously, he's been mentally beaten down by Emmett, and he's back in his cell. Geordie Belair does great work here with minimal colours. Again, white to the forefront, but he's in a darkened cell, so predominantly you get almost like a blue-grey on his skin. But the only other piece of colour sticking out right in the middle of the panel of the page is the red pen that we saw went missing. So you can see Mark having an internal dialogue with what appears to be Khonshu, or what we will assume is Khonshu now, because it's the black bubble and the almost hieroglyphic text. And basically, what is it saying? It says that Khonshu's basically saying, look, you stole the pen, so you really believe deep in your heart that where you are now is not right. So it's kind of a struggle that Khonshu's trying to make Mark think that, don't listen to Emmett, there's something more to it.
And I love, if I'll just talk about my love, like the ever-living hype machine that I am, who won't shut up, that the blues here, I love how we see the setup by Blair to show that this is a conversation with Khonshu, something very otherworldly in this kind of grounded, cold, sterile, and we see this blue coming in, and we see the white, but the red, something so important in the plot, in this reality, as we so to speak, is red and distinct.
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely. Red also synonymous with Dr. Emmett as well. Red hair, red dress. Stained
scarlet.
Stained scarlet. Yeah, so we link all these. Ooh, good point there. Possibly a connection. So anyway, so again, we turn the page. So Mark's decided, okay, he will do something about it. We turn the page, and bang, the blues and the dark greys are all gone, and we're back to quite a bright colouring here, bright and white, with Billy and Bobby playing fish, and they hear a loud scream, and only a few. More red, yes, a loud scream, but only little clues given. So, in between the top panel and the middle panel, there's just a little bit of line work, and then between the second and third, you see what is Mark's hand and the red pen doing something. So we don't know, but there's a big scream, and these guys come out and see what's happening.
And then we're introduced to the next page, running in from the previous one, I'll give him something to choke on. The screen turned white of the "Didn't we tell you?" to the big, massive 1/3 of the page, Mark Spector dressed up in a makeshift Moon Knight costume. Nothing. Just wanted to get your attention.
And that is it's quite a scary costume, like a totally makeshift. You've got a crazy guy, basically. What he's done, he's wrapped a bedsheet around his neck, he's wrapped his wrists, and he's got this freakish mask. And all you can see are the whites of his eyes coming through it. And what we learn from Mark's dialogue, is that when he puts this mask on, he actually sees the truth. And so as a reader, you look down, and Billy and Bobby have turned into what look to be Egyptian guard dogs. I don't know what the term is.
Anubis-looking peeps. I don't know.
Yeah. What are they? What did he call them?
Oh, that's just the face of Anubis, the Egyptian.
Oh, yes, god. Yes.
A jackal, I think.
The Jackals, yeah, they're definitely Jackals, and that kind of aligns with their character. So he's got this mask on, and he sees them as Jackals. And then, next page, wham, we get a nice splash page again. A bit more colour, but a lot of action here, Connor. What do you think of the layout here?
I think it's so frantic like a fight would be. Sorry. And just, managing to fit a full issue and condense this fight scene to one page with all these panels is just crazy impressive, and it's such a frantic jump between panels. There's no sequence, there's no almost clear way of moving through these swings.
Yeah. I think it promotes that chaos, and totally agree with you. This condensation of a fight scene, whereas a typical comic will go over a few pages, highlighting in weird and dynamic angles the actual fight, with punches and kicks. You just get a clutter of it here. So it's basically a page of Mark kicking ass, and you see at the top Mark about to wield his fist, and you basically get a lot of chaos in the middle, and at the end you basically get the result. You get one of the Jackals or the Wards just knocked out.
Seeing that bloodied mouth like we were talking about before.
Yeah, I like that effect, actually. It's really good. And even Mark's crazy eye there. So, yeah, this page is just filled with kicks and punches, but it's all kind of muddled in together. The next page, again, so Mark's obviously beaten his way out of his room, and again, there's a level of tension and excitement here, so we move back to the layout of the exclamation mark. So again, we saw that previously. Another big revelation with the dot being Mark's eyes between the mask. Something more clear, as you can see here from when we saw him before. Yeah, definitely. So it seems with the mask on that he's got a bit more clarity, or he's a bit more comfortable with what he sees. And just again, the red as he goes down the corridor, goes into the fire exit and up the stairs, the use of red, I think, again, highlights some sort of danger. That he's obviously in a position that he's running away from something. So again, it ties into Dr. Emmett. Dr. Emmett being, you could almost think, the mastermind of this whole thing.
Head honcho.
Yeah. So he finds his way up to what appears to be the top of the roof. And what do we see here, Connor?
Oh, what a splash page. Just what a splash page. Our small and almost insignificant in the bottom left-hand corner to a sand-swept, destroyed pyramid in the background controlled version of New York.
Look at the detail of these buildings. It's fantastic. Like, again, Smallwood just using his attention to detail. Look, surely he must have been dedicated to Moon Knight around this time. There's no way that he would have been able to do other issues, and being bogged down with work, because he's just really, really to the fenestration and the windows of all the buildings. It's just, and it really adds to it. And I think this detail, again, I'll harp about it, this detail contrasted to the whiteness of Mark, it just really works. And so you get some, I don't know what, gargoyles of Anubis flying around, I don't know what they are. It's all a bit chaotic. Actually, and I thought that was the last page, but it isn't.
Me too. And then, bam, this 15-panel grid page.
That's weird. Like, it just goes from the big, awesome splash page, and then it's cut up into 15 equally sized panels.
Step by step, baby.
Step by step. Yeah, what do you reckon? Do you reckon he's trying to slow us down or something? Or?
Yeah, I think very deliberate to fit us into the word limit, but also, the page limit, but even not that, I think that this is very specific, allowed to give us focus, We need to focus on the moon here. We need to focus on a car covered in sand to show the world.
That's true. He's looking at particular things, so he is actually taking it all in. Because, I found it, again, it's a use of contrast, but I found it really didn't, it doesn't lead your eye, but it kind of does in a way, in the sense that you are focused on each square as you go down, so that's really good. So as he's kind of looking and taking this all in, he hears something, he turns around, and then we have the Jackals at him again, the Jackals / Ward on top of the roof. So Mark curses himself and subsequently gets tackled, and he gets beaten by them.
With Khonshu's reprimand.
Yeah, exactly. I expected more, my son, with a big sigh. Isn't that a disappointment? So they rip his mask off, and Mark specifically says, "Oh, my mask, give me back my mask. I can't see your faces anymore." And that just reiterates what we mentioned earlier. And as he turns around without the mask, they're back to being the wards that they are.
With their coloured sneakers that you kind of saw in the last panel. I love these jackals in red and orange sneakers.
Well, if you've got to wear white all day, you've got to show some flair somewhere. So, yeah, definitely. I wonder if they're Nikes or Reeboks. Who knows?
Is there a sponsorship coming up in the next issues?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Oh God, I hope they don't introduce sponsors. Otherwise, we'd be saying, oh my gosh, Apples and Nikes everywhere. So they beat him, basically, take his mask, and they say, look, there's nothing to see here. And Mark looks up, and again, that's got to be a spitting image of Greg Smallwood.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle. And then you get this beautiful skyline, and Geordie Belair brings the colours. I love the yellows and a little bit of the white in the city to show like the nighttime and the dusk. And it's just normal New York City, right?
Yeah. What's happening? Is this the truth? Is it the other truth? We're going crazy.
Yeah. So many questions. Last page, they kind of escort him back. There's a new colour to the text. So is this? Are we to believe this is a different Mark now? Has he developed? I guess because he goes, I know what I saw. I know, Khonshu, can't you help me? Khonshu, speak to me. But it's in blue, so yeah.
We never see that black return of the speaking of Khonshu, and a very important focus on the drawing from the text. From his scrapbooks. Yeah,
exactly. So again, it ends with a nice little fade in of panels. They kind of disappear. The top third, no panels, just the figures. Then you get the full width panel showing Mark looking over his shoulder, still a bit unsure what the hell is happening. And then the panels reduce slightly, and you're left with Mark questioning: did it all happen? And that ends our first issue.
Ooh, what a run. Having read the entire thing, I think this is what I could call a perfect run. Just as we'll go through, you'll hear nothing but praise for what I consider a pretty flawless book. Yeah,
I think I mentioned to you off air as well a bit earlier, I could just reread this first issue as well. It's just, there's so much to pick up, and it's just so gorgeous art. The writing is awesome, and just the layouts are fantastic. And just questions upon questions. A great way to start off a series.
Very Lemire. Just questions.
Very Lemire. So, that was a wrap-up of our first issue for Jeff Lemire. We have a second issue to look through. This is Marvel Preview number 21. It was, I think, the year... Oh my gosh.
1980, the spring of 1980.
Of course.
Would you say a month before the first issue of the original 1980 run?
That's right, yeah. We were trying to actually place the timeline of this story, so Marvel Preview number 21. We're trying to place this with the first issue of Moon Knight Volume 1. And I reckon it falls in between, or basically smack bang in the middle of Moon Knight number 1. The only reason I say that is the Mooncopter in this issue compared to the Mooncopter in the second half of Moon Knight issue 1 is a bit of an older model, so it would have to fall in that kind of space. So issue 21, it's got a little blurb at the beginning as well. Under many guises does the man known as Moon Knight probe the dark secrets of the night, as cabbie, millionaire and mercenary. Who he truly is, no one can say, though all who cross his path know him as a figure to be respected and feared, Moon Knight. So this is an older version, or older iteration of Moon Knight, Connor, I'll let you begin here.
Alright, actually it was just a quick little thing I have with my issue. I'm not sure whether you get it in your Epic collection of the full phase little discussion by an editor.
Oh yes. That's right. Yeah, good pickup.
I just wanted to call back to that. This was a very sort of obvious send off before we got our first run of Moon Knight, and it's a very interesting sort of write up about this editor and how he saw Moon Knight grow and sending him off.
Yeah, Ralph Macchio, not the Karate Kid, but the other Ralph Macchio. Yeah, definitely. It was a great write-up, actually. I was reading that earlier on. He makes mention that, although Doug Moench and Doug Perlin were the creators, he kind of felt an affinity to the character. He was the editor of the 1978 Hulk magazine, and he was looking for a backup story and a backup character to kind of contrast with the Hulk. So it was a bit more of a marketing ploy. He wanted fans of the Hulk to be exposed to a different genre of comic and vice versa. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Connor. He said he was looking at Sheena, I think. Sheena the She-Devil.
Yeah, that's the one.
One of the comics, and the Submariner as potential secondary characters. But Moon Knight fell on his lap, and he thought, okay, we might as well use this guy.
And we're glad he did.
Yeah. He also makes mention as well, just from memory, it wasn't actually, again, an editorial note. It wasn't Bill Sienkiewicz who instigated the Moon Knight cape. It was Paddy Greer and another person. I can't remember the name.
Mark Grunwald.
Mark Grunwald. Yeah, they were the ones that wanted to change the cape of Moon Knight, thinking that the original cape attached to the wrists kind of looked a bit dodgy. It was practical, but it didn't have that kind of superhero-y thing, so they went for a naturally flowing cape. From that, Moon Knight kind of evolved.
And yeah, this is this issue is sort of where we see launch us into the new era, from that old magazine style to what he learned from Hulk magazine and the previews into what will become his full-fledged run.
Yeah, it's quite a nice evolution of the character already, from 1975 to 1980.
So I think we better launch on in.
Yeah.
So we open on our very first page with a little bit of a prologue. We've got
Samuels?
Samuels, okay. I was going to say, I was like, who is this man?
Who is this dude?
Whose man is this? Yeah, Moon Knight aficionado here, guys. I'm sorry. Answering the phone for the Grant residence, we see someone dropping a special package to Mark Spector. Obviously, Samuels is very confused, because who wants to drop anything off to the reclusive Mr. Spector?
Yeah, and there's also, I find it so dodgy already. Like, you've got Stephen Grant, and yeah, Mark Spector's mail just goes to Stephen Grant's residence. So we're not meant to think that there. It's a bit dodgy, isn't it? But he gets his mail at Mr. Grant's residence, so just drop it off. So yeah, Samuels is a bit concerned or a bit perplexed at what's happening, and then we get the usual first page kind of splash page of Moon Knight dropping in from the sky.
Yeah, it's a fantastic splash page, but the first time I saw this, I loved just the flop in and these two men here just freaking out over this drop from the sky.
Yeah, exactly. The background's quite nice as well. The buildings are well drawn out.
That is... yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It's just a great...
No, it was a good point, yes. Just we were talking about the backgrounds to Smallwoods, but this is quite good as well. And I was thinking at this first page, it was funny, like, if you did not know Moon Knight at all, and you got this Moon Knight bubble going, time to say goodnight to Moon Knight, and good evening to Stephen Grant via Jake Lockley, you'd be going, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
But we know it's his personalities. So basically Moon Knight goes, and again, a little dodgy here, he rushes to a cab in full costume. Yeah, he just opens the boot, he gets changed. Look, and it's not as quick as that. How long would it take to get out of your costume and into new? It'd take what? 5?
At least even like a minute.
At least a minute if you're quick. Say 5. So he's like 5 minutes. He's getting changed at the back of a cab, to what looks like it's still open in the street, right? It's not in the
Yeah.
not in an alleyway. So anyway, so he gets changed and he zooms off in the cab, and again, I mean, look, this is just the sign of the times. I do really like this issue, but I do laugh a little at some of it. So anyway, Mark Spector drives up to the Grant mansion, and poor Samuels, and this is a recurring thing, he's confused. He doesn't know what to call this guy. The guy comes out of the cab going, "Oh, good evening, Mr. Lockley, there's, rightly so." And then Mark goes, no, I'm not Lockley, you silly person.
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, I'm Stephen Grant, although I might be dressed as Lockley." "Oh, okay, sorry, Mr. Grant." So everything, and he wants to tell him about this package, but Mark is not having a bar of it at all.
I think actually this issue is pretty interesting. That I feel like almost there's almost an unsurety in the quality between this and what we saw in even the first issue and the later issues of Volume 1, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just how much he came to grips more with the character in Issue 1 of Volume 1, because here, you know, he almost doesn't all that smoothly use the jumping between identities, but in the main comic it wasn't almost a sort of joking of, "Oh, I'm Stephen Grant now." It was very much sort of confusion by everyone, and even Spectre Lockley Grant himself.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of confusion here, and he admits it later on as well. So I think Monch is really kind of still formulating it, I think, himself, and it definitely does get better once the ongoing series hits. So Mark or Stephen Grant storms off. Samuels is trying to tell him that he's got something, but Stephen says, "What's for dinner?" "Oh, Alaskan crab. Sounds great. Don't forget the butter sauce." And Samuels can only say, "Yes, sir," and he can't get a word in edgewise.
Then we get to a very specific shower scene where we become a common motif in this issue that is a very underdressed version of Marlene.
Oh gosh, I think it's a common thread throughout the whole of all the volumes. Poor Marlene, she's there to comfort Mark, but he gets out of his garb and someone jumps out of the pool, and it's Marlene in her birthday suit, and
covered by bubbles and streaks of water.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, very, very appropriately placed little bubbles there. But there's just a lot of flirting. It just seems to be just constant flirting between these two. Samuels jumps in, and what I love here, in the bottom left, Samuels is quite embarrassed at seeing Marlene naked, and she goes, "Oh, knock it off, Samuels, you've seen my squeaky velvet before." And I was like, what does that mean? What is a squeaky velvet? What are you talking about, Marlene? So it's definitely very playful, a bit cheeky.
Alright, let's do some Googling about squeaky velvet.
It might be from the mind of Doug Munch, but...
just a little. So far I've got ants. Velvet ants.
Yeah, I doubt she's talking about ants. And even the last panel of this page, it seems her butt is covered by a word bubble. So everything is done tastefully, although there's a lot of innuendo, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say it stops there, but... Nah.
Nah, it just keeps on going. So, and we'll see later on in this issue. So anyway, they rush because Samuels finally gets to tell them that there's a delivery that's left in what looks like the garage, and it has some French writing on it. And I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, unless you want to give it a go, Connor.
No.
No, okay.
If you have the issue, please flick through.
Yes,
Otherwise, your manipulative Exxon is all yours.
Is all yours, yeah. We'll just have to refer to Frenchie here, although he doesn't actually translate it. I think Mark does. But anyway, there's a little bit of a background. You can see a bit of the mooncopter there, see? And that's definitely an older version of the mooncopter. So Frenchie's repairing that, and then he's he seems to be the lackey to Mark, so he's the one checking out what's in the box. And there's a bit of an odour, so they're going, okay, well, let's open it. So they crack it open, and it is not only a box, it is basically a coffin. So there's a dead body there, quite gruesome. The face has been bashed, it seems. And anyway, so they're kind of wondering who would send us a dead body.
And no one really has a good answer. Well,
no one. That's true. Oh, just actually a little point here, Connor, further to your previous point. So on the next page, when Mark goes into his... Well, actually what happens is Mark recognises the body as that of Amos Lardner. So Mark, through the blood and the beating, recognises the face and goes, oh my gosh, it's Amos Lardner, and I used to work in an agency with him. So Mark goes on to a history about him and Amos. And this was the thing I was about to say, Connor. The face here of Mark Spector, I do believe, I can't confirm it, but that looks very much like Bill Sienkiewicz.
Oh.
I reckon he's done it as well. Well, he's done it first.
This is
yes. Oh, sorry, of course.
Sienkiewicz and actually Tom Palmer, apparently.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that might be Tom Palmer then. I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, so he talks about his relationship with Amos. Basically, they were good buddies at this agency until one night Amos said, look, I need a trip to Montreal, to Raven Crag, which is a mental asylum, a recurring theme.
Yeah, all asylums here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. And he says, well, could you just give me a lift up there, which Mark does. He says goodbye to Amos, and that's the last he basically saw of him. And then Mark talks about Amos did have a brother, and he was called James Lardner.
Amos to James, weird parents.
Yeah, exactly. And James was a bit more of a hothead, but there's not much to know about him other than he was a bit more tougher than his brother Amos. So as Mark finishes his story, a bit of a foreshadowing, a nice little tidbit to get in there, so the readers can latch onto that and remember it when we see him later on.
Yeah, actually, I was just going to say this is actually some of my favourite parts of this issue. I loved what Munch actually did later in his volume one of the callback to his days in the mercenary and how it affects the present. It's a lot of fun, and especially this part. And just to call up on the art a bit, I love how this flashback is filled with almost newspaper clippings cut out and rough edges and glued to a page. Yeah, good point,
almost. Actually. Definitely. There's a bit more of a subtle use of the panels there, and a bit rougher lines to kind of show that it is a memory and it is a flashback. So great point. And timely. So as Mark finishes his story, as you do, someone drives up to the mansion, as you do, and shoots a bazooka, which basically blows up part of the mansion. And I like it here as well. So Frenchie's going, the front of the mansion, Mark, an incendiary grenade. And Mark goes, yeah, there goes the crab. So I reckon, if you look at that, and I forgot to mention the very first or the second page, Mark says, as he jumps down from the sky, at least not in this neighbourhood, and I'm starved. I reckon Mark is a little hangry.
Yeah. Does he even get to eat throughout this issue? Is maybe the entirety of this issue fueled by his hangriness?
I think so as well. He's just lost his Alaskan crab. And
butter sauce.
And butter sauce. He had a little flirtation with Marlene, but, that's not going to fill his belly. And anyway, so the mansion gets blown up. And what does Mark do? Where does he go? He says, put out the fire, Samuels. Because it's easy as that, isn't it? I
feel bad for everyone this issue. He ignores Frenchie and Samuel.
He does. He does, yeah. I know what you're talking about him ignoring Frenchie, right? It's on the next page. Did you pick up this as well?
It's very hangry behaviour.
It is very hangry behaviour because he goes, okay, look, Marlene, just look up Operation Cobra. I reckon that's what it is. He's got to go with Frenchie, and he basically goes in the mooncopter with Frenchie, And he says, and I quote here, only that it's an institution, Frenchie, which is a polite way of saying it's an insane asylum, but what it really is a company front. Wake me when we get there.
Yeah, nothing. So, what does Frenchie get in here?
Yeah,
Justice
so Mark...
for Frenchie.
Yeah, so Frenchie just goes, "Oui, Mark, pleasant dreams." So it says hours later. So Mark is asleep while Frenchie's just driving the stick here. That's a bit rude, isn't it?
Why do we like this hero? That's it. Case on the podcast.
That's it. I'm kind of questioning it now. But anyway, look, I'm going to put it down to his hangriness. So so hours later, they finally arrive to Ravencrag, which I thought this mooncopter was fast, but anyway, it must be far away. So Frenchie
this was the upgrade between this issue and the first issue of Volume 1. Oh,
yes. Yeah. That's right. This was the upgrade. It was, so you'd want to expect that the other one is a lot faster. So he drops Frenchie. Oh, Frenchie drops Mark down onto the asylum, and Connor, there's what I was referring to actually from last episode, the cape being like a crescent moon.
Yeah, it's very cool actually. I mean, I almost prefer if they kept the, that kind of cool idea of it being practical, but this issue uses it pretty well. It's quite cool seeing that crescent moon fall down.
Yeah, it's very cool, and I'm pretty sure this is Sienkiewicz. Really nice art as he uses the crescent dart to get in. He's turned off what you'll see down later at the track as well is that he talks about his inbuilt cowl mic, which he uses as constant communication with Frenchie. Anyway, so he breaks in, and then he gets taken, basically. Someone surprises him from behind. And it turns out to be a lunatic. Which again raises the question, why are they out of their cells?
Yeah, this is kind of just like just a room on a window.
Yeah, maybe it's a kind of a freestyle
free range
asylum.
Free range asylum.
Free range, that was it. Where they get to kind of roam around. Maybe that's more kind of their thing. And as Moon Knight gets nearly overwhelmed, he bumps into a masked figure with what looks to be a bomb.
Yeah, classic
bomb. They have a bit of a tussle, and look, the guy does say, "Let go of me. The time is set for only 5 minutes." So the next page of them fighting is a good 5 minutes of fighting, right?
Yeah.
Because Mark goes all the way down to the wire, and he manages to stop it just before it goes. So that's a lot of fighting. 5 minutes. Yeah. You think about it.
Not badly condensed, I say, by Sienkiewicz.
Yeah, true. I guess we definitely give them that. So the villain, we still don't know who it is running away, and Mark makes comment of how strong and how fast this person is. It doesn't faze him though, so he crashes through and catches up with him, tackles him, but the guy gets away by throwing a gas bomb at Moon Knight.
Yeah, I mean, Moon Knight probably should have saw it coming. He's not on his game tonight.
No, he's a bit, he's probably a bit gung-ho. So Frenchie comes around and helps him out. And I think they basically go home at dawn. And Mark returns later on to speak to, who was it? Hanson.
The owner.
The owner of Ravencrag, yeah?
My favourite person, with a discussion about what is now it used to be a company front, but it's a fully legitimate institution, where he admits that he had a little trouble last night, a broken window, and inmates had cobbled together a time bomb. A little trouble.
A little trouble, yeah. I mean, like, maybe it is a little trouble. Maybe a lot of trouble involves, I don't know, a full riot, a full revolution. But this guy, not too phased. He's kind of keeping it cool, smoking his cigar. Free range asylum. And Mark basically teases out of him. He knows that the company has been doing mind control experiments, so hypnosis, drugs, and he makes mention. And this is a common thread, I think, around this time as well. It ties into the Hulk, about the use of adrenaline and how people who are hyped up on adrenaline are known to have enhanced strength. So Mark takes this all in, but he's not really happy with his meeting with Hansen. Basically, he's saying that there's something funny going on.
And then we get, where do we cut to next?
We cut to the Grant mansion with Marlene. She has a bit more information on what's happening.
A very common thread we'll see that actually out of everything, Marlene becomes a Deus Ex Machina for...
She does, doesn't she? She really... I mean, Mark really can't function without her. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I'm just having a look here. They're repairing the mansion. And we're up towards the end of part one of this.
With Mark's home repair guy?
Yeah, home repair guy. Mark's saying that basically, Marlene, you can't come with me to Paris. Just stay there and let me do my job. I don't think Marlene really takes kindly to that. So I think she's looking for a flight to Paris.
Yeah, and then he arrives in a weird-looking jet. I'm not sure. Maybe that's more common.
Yeah, I think that's a Concorde. I'm not too sure on my planes, but I remember when I was young as well. The little dippy nose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how common it was, but anyway, so I think it was meant to be a fast plane. So they land in Paris, and before we get off the first page, Marlene's taking her top off.
Yeah, look, we had at least one page before this, clothes. We'll take what we can get.
Yeah, exactly. So Marlene's happy to be in Paris. She surprises Mark. He's not too happy about it, but they go to the Hotel Regina, and she wants to take her kit off. So Mark says, you can do that. I'm doing something else. And what he does is he dresses up as Moon Knight, and he pays a visit to a fella.
LeBlanc.
Is that his name? LeBlanc, yeah. And again, another great little line here. Operation Cobra and Amos Lardner talk. Talk, LeBlanc, or I'll rip your fat face off. I think that's a really cool threat. Nothing like getting your fat face ripped off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think there's anything more he could have said there.
That's true. I mean, he could have gone into more detail. But anyway, LeBlanc, under pressure, reveals a bit more of the mind control experiments that seem to be happening, and we get a picture of a profile of a face or a head with what looks like to be some nodes inserted in there, electrodes in there. So Moon Knight just basically pushes him a bit more before he's actually interrupted by someone with a machine gun.
Classic.
They come storming in, and it turns out to be none other than James Lardner, who we were introduced briefly before, as the brother of Amos. So he doesn't know that Mark is Moon Knight, and he's still blaming Mark Spector.
For his brother's death.
Hence the bazooka at the mansion. But Moon Knight's going, no, it's not true, and they have a bit of a scuffle. Pretty cool moves there by Moon Knight.
This is actually a pretty... Sienkiewicz was a great artist for the time, and I think his art still really holds up.
Oh yeah, great. Again, one of our loonies, Paul, he's a big Sienkiewicz fan, and I'd have to agree, he's a really good artist. So anyway, James runs off. I think Moon Knight is somehow distracted by LeBlanc, and the guy runs off, in which case again Moon Knight can't catch up, but we see none other than Marlene with a car to save him or to help him. So thankfully she's there, and with the Eiffel Tower in the background, they give chase through the streets of Paris. Did they? Sorry. They flew into Paris. Yeah. So I think that's meant to be shown by these provincial-looking people. There's a guy here carrying a baguette.
I don't think Munch was ever very kind to the French. He has the very stereotype talking of Frenchie and Frenchie's name being Frenchy.
and the other French guy being called LeBlanc. I mean, you can't get any more French than that. Anyway, they have a car chase, and unfortunately, it doesn't end well. A bit of a car crash. Moon Knight is knocked unconscious. Same with Marlene, and they're both taken away to separate areas. As Moon Knight regains consciousness, he finds himself in a weird room under some drugs of some description, and they're trying to ask him who he is. And I think he kind of spins him out a bit by saying three different identities. So he's telling the truth, but it's just baffling them. Anyway, he gets a vision of Marlene, and his love for Marlene and her naked body, it seems, has him in a fury. So he snaps his bonds, and he proceeds to knock the guys unconscious. He stumbles through a conservatory, in which case he finds Marlene. Basically, she's been tied up by this other figure. He saves her, and he jumps out, and with guns shooting, he and Marlene run for their lives, but none other than Frenchie saves them.
Yes.
With what is a very Moon Knight thing, a ladder from the
hanging onto the ladder, gun shooting.
Yeah, it's such a Moon Knight. It must be from his mercenary days, but they keep that motif running throughout the whole of Moon Knight. So Frenchie there with his hat, he manages to swing them out and up to safety.
And the big plot twist of this issue, which I didn't actually see coming, it was pretty cool at the time to come to the realization that LeBlanc had actually been lying to a good pal Moon Knight, had gone ahead with this Cobra experiment he had called theoretical.
Yes, and in that car crash, where James Lardner was knocked unconscious as well, it seems that he was retrieved by LeBlanc, and he's being used on the experiment, now calling him Cobra and having the electrodes sticking out of his head. So here's a bit of an exposition in one page on the next page, showing basically what this whole thing means. And basically, LeBlanc has a remote control, and he can manipulate the emotions of Cobra, aka James Lardner. So he can go from sorrow to rage to amusement at a press of a button.
Pretty cool facial work here.
Yeah,
actually, the sorrow is kind of reminiscent of that classic drama mask.
Ah, yes, yeah. And the colours are really good as well. Like, obviously, the Rage has the red and a lot more darker fill to the panel. But yeah, we basically get sorrow and rage. Amusement, I don't think we see, unless you call that one in the middle amusement. It's a bit more manic. But also, as well, the most important thing that LeBlanc says is that with this manipulation of the brain, we can stimulate the brain. Basically, I guess, releasing a lot more adrenaline, and hence giving him the power of 10 normal men. So he's a bit of a strong dude.
Just a bit. That common thread you picked up before?
Yes. Oh, yes. Which one was that, sorry?
About the adrenaline coming back. Did you say that was important in Hulk magazine?
Yeah, it was in Hulk, and it was actually in the Hulk TV show. There was a big emphasis back in that day of adrenaline and how that actually stimulates strength. So I think it was kind of like a thing, a zeitgeist. It was a thing of the time that they were quite interested in. So we go back to Mark. He and Marlene are back at Hotel Regina, saved by Frenchie, and it looks like, well, what happens? He just goes. Well, basically, they figure out to go to LeBlanc's estate, I guess, to stop the manipulation.
Yeah, he just tells everyone to buckle in and get things done.
Yeah, so he just basically wakes up and goes, "Come on, we're back at it again." So 2 hours later, they go to the Tatsim Museum at Cossa La Vivienne. whatever that is. Hopefully that's real. I'm sorry, apologies to the French. And Mark drops down again, crescent-like, and this bottom page, I love this one actually.
Gorgeous.
It's got again the crescent moon, yeah, but he's on an angle, so he's got his shoulder dipped, but it's a great effect, and he's looking onto, it looks like dusk, and some water. So anyway, he drops in on Lardner, who's wearing a hat to cover the electrodes.
If she doesn't notice, I'm not sure how, looking at this.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like he's got a piece of reinforced steel through his head. But anyway, so Mark jumps down and tries to reason with him, but at a press of a button, Lardner goes crazy, starts fighting with Mark. So Mark says his hat came off and his head. That operating room, it wasn't a hallucination. So he sees Lardner is not normal, and he continues to fight him. While a couple of lackeys, I can't remember their names, but they bring their guns just in case. Jenkins and Crane come in to just make sure that Moon Knight is finished, but they don't see Frenchie and Marlene, so they get in on the action, and I see Frenchie just out and out shoots Crane.
Yeah, no, he's fine. Just give him a shot.
Yeah, he's a mercenary, I guess, so there's no punches pulled here. Frenchie and Moon Knight, no compunction to not kill.
And then my favourite part of this issue, this gorgeous double-page spread of a fight in the water between Moon Knight and Lardner, and then Marlene, Frenchie, and one of the lackeys.
Yeah, it's great. Under the open night sky, and you got the full moon there, and there are just some ornaments. I think it's some kind of I don't know, just a garden with a lake. So they're just fighting it out. And Moon Knight makes mention that even his truncheon has no effect on this guy. He doesn't feel any pain, it seems. Marlene seems to be doing better than Mark. She's really kicking ass. As Mark's fighting Lardner, he sees LeBlanc, and he's got good eyesight because he makes out something in LeBlanc's hand and he throws a truncheon at it and subsequently destroys the remote control.
Yeah, look, this remote control is pretty rubbish. I mean, when you look at it, this is this incredible electrode adrenaline, and he's got to follow, like, just what would even be 100 meters or something behind this guy to keep up, so Moon Knight just gets that incredible aim, hits the box, and he's gone.
Yeah, well, it is noted he's a bit of a marksman, so he must know exactly what he's doing. He smashes the remote control, and that's damaged further still when LeBlanc, in a panic, running away from Lardner, steps on it, so that's totally gone. He gets in the car, but he wants to run Lardner over. And Moon Knight sees this, and he throws his patented crescent dart, and he flattens one of the tyre. The tyre bursts, and the car hits a tree. So Lardner goes up to it, and he's still mad as hell. He's
unable to control his thoughts or self.
Exactly, and you see him lift the car, so he's still kind of way beyond his normal self. But again, for some reason, if a car hits a tree, it's going to explode. So
yeah, well.
And it surely does, with Lardner and LeBlanc seemingly killed in the accident. So Moon Knight, Frenchie, and Marlene kind of wrap things up pretty well there. There's nothing much they can do. I mean, I guess the head villains have died, so nothing but to clean up the mess, and we're left with the epilogue.
Yeah, that we get a cheeky little send back of Spectre sending a coffin full of someone's dead body to the company that was using Lardner.
Yeah, what did you make of this? Like, what was in there?
I don't know. I'm thinking a body, and you read the page, and it may not be a body because everyone blew up.
That's what I think, though. But that's pretty sick. That's a pretty bad thing to do, right?
Yeah, and especially if it's like fish from a burning car wreck, and you just carried the body home.
Yeah, and to like put it neatly in a coffin and then send it. Anyway, that is what it is. And look, it was a fun read as well. And it ends with, sorry, I should say, the last panel ends with a topless Marlene again. So, loony listeners, loony listeners, have a little look there. That's the end of that. Basically, it's a one-shot, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, we have a lot of fun with this issue. We pull a lot of punches here, but
yeah,
it's a fun little issue that really sets up quite nicely what's going into the Munch run we see with Volume 1 that we'll be raving about, no doubt, in future episodes.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can be flippant only because obviously things kind of date. It's still by no means am I saying it's terrible. Making fun of it, I think it's a lot of fun. But we can have a bit of a laugh because sign of the times basically. Now, Connor, I know we haven't discussed this, but I'm thinking there's a backup story with the Shroud. How about we can leave that for another time? Is that good?
Well, is the Shroud a Moon Knight villain? I can't remember him.
I don't think so. I think this might have been one of those instances where it's like, let's put in another character as an intro, because I think you've seen there's an intro to him as well. Like
this is like another premiere thing where they just set up, heroes and stuff, because he would become a hero apparently for the Heroes for Hire eventually.
Yeah. So I don't know if he has any direct connection. I think it's just a matter of it is a Marvel preview, so I think it's two distinct.
When you messaged me asking if we were doing it on the pod, I was only just started reading it, so I was like, oh yeah, this is Moon Knight, and then I started reading it, and we're 3 pages in, no Moon Knight. I'm like, oh, this is a nice setup for a villain. I think I must have been halfway through this issue before I realised that Moon Knight's not coming, is he?
yeah, that would have been that would have been terrible. You'd be waiting forever. He's not there.
I mean, we're probably looking at the title. We probably won't cover it, but it's a fun issue, and it's Ditko art, which is gorgeous. Like the line work and the attention to detail. It was probably one of my favourite artists of that generation.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We were saying just how good the Ditko art was. I haven't seen much of it, but I do like it. And admittedly, of course, I know he had a big part to do with Spider-Man, but I actually admittedly haven't read or looked at much of his artwork. It's a nice classic style.
I just want to point out that this issue was written by the Shroud. Yes. Issue was written by Mark Grunwald and Stephen Grant.
Stephen Grant,
someone, an actual comic book writer. But quite a nice little tie-in.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure that's his real name. Like, it just must be just. I wonder if Doug Moench and sorry, is that Doug? Yeah, Doug Moench and are they both Dougs? And Doug Perlin, Don Perlin. I think Don Perlin.
Yeah.
I wonder if they both knew this Stephen Grant and said, "Hey, we're going to name you." One of the personalities.
Well, he's well known for his Defenders. Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, Punisher.
Right.
He's done a bit.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh, we might have to give that a bit of a read, I think. Okay. Well, I think that will probably do us.
Another quite a chunk of episode this week.
Yeah, another chunky episode, but we got through two distinctly different issues. Next week, Connor, what do we have?
Next week we have the second of our Incredible Lemire run, but we will, for a nice little tie-in to the Defenders coming out next week on Tuesday, we will be doing one of the classic crossovers, well, not really crossovers, but one of Marvel's team-up books.
Yeah,
and that
fantastic.
I've totally forgot the number.
Oh, it's alright. It's Marvel Team-Up Annual number 4.
Number 4.
So that will have. It's on the front cover as well. It's a quite a nice cover. It's got Purple Man as the main villain, but it has none other than Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Daredevil, I think, in there. No Jessica Jones. She wasn't invented yet, but basically you have the Netflix Defenders there. So that should be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to that. And we've been a bit light on news lately, but we got some fun stuff coming up. We want to have a look at the in later episodes, we want to have a look in the new Moon Knight figure out. We've got the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show Moon Knight episode to cover.
Sure. I really want to cover that one. That's pretty
And,
good.
We could always do a separate episode if fans want us to do a Defenders review. Maybe.
Totally up for that as well. Although there are, I must give a little plug, a couple of really good Defenders podcasts out there at the moment. There's one called Defenders TV Podcast. It's hosted by three awesome guys from Ireland and England, Derek, John, and Chris. They have been going for a couple of years now, and they started basically with Daredevil Season 1, and they've gone every episode, plus all the MCU films and other TV shows, except for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So they've done a mountain of work, fantastic reviews for each episode. The second one is also Defenders Podcast, I believe, and that's run by Claire and her team, and that's a real fun kind of conversation, and she also has a lot of really good interviews with actors and writers of the Netflix show, so that's great.
So let it be known, if you want us to review Defenders, it won't be that good, but we'll see after all.
We'll give it a go. Any more shout outs there, Connor?
I'd like to give a few to a couple of podcasts. One of our good friends, Daniel, with his totally blanking. Geek Street.
Geek Street Podcast.
Yeah, okay, I thought that was another one. Just Geek Street Podcast. Look them up there. Crazy cool little
really
duo.
Good. Yeah, they talk about anything comics and movies as well. But yeah, a lot of fun. Last episode, I think they did sequels and reboots, which were really cool.
Yeah, the latest episode was only a few days ago, so it's a great episode to jump on. A lot of fun.
That's our Twitter handle at Geek Street Pod, and also there's also our good friends at Signal of Doom, David and Stuart. Always a lot of fun, massive podcasts there, but they cover everything, even conventions. They did San Diego Comic Con as well, which was really cool.
Yeah, and they're both giving shout outs to the Facebook group back when it was called Fist of Contra. I'm sure even a few of the members on there came from those guys' recommendations. So sharing the love around with our Aussie podcast. Definitely check out both of them. Signal of Doom and Geek Street Podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks to those guys for mentioning us. And finally, there are a couple of Instagram accounts that I want to talk about. Moon Knight Life. And the other one's called Miscellaneous Crap, or just Misc Crap. And this was given to me by Paul, again, our fellow loony, on the Facebook group. And there's a lot of Moon Knight images there, a lot of great Moon Knight artwork, so check it out on Instagram.
Yeah, and you can find us online. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. We've got Podbean, Overcast. We're getting around the place. Yeah, we're spreading the love. You can find us on www.intothenightpodcast.wordpress.com. Email us at moonknightpodcast@gmail.com. Facebook, our group is called Into the Night and Moon Knight Fanbase, and our Twitter handle is at ITK Moon Knight. Fantastic. Well, Connor, our first episode done and dusted. Yeah. How's that? Not bad. I think we got another sizable chunk for you all, but no stopping this train, I don't think. Exactly. Thank you so much for listening to us. We'll be sure to catch you next week for issue 2 and any latest news. Yeah, hopefully some. Till then, we'll catch you, and may Khonshu look after the denizens of the night. Goodbye. Gotcha, thanks. See ya. Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.